What's up? It's Easter today, which is very magical, but it's also April Fool's Day, which potentially means that maybe this isn't Easter. Like, maybe the big JC's waiting to play a joke on us. Who knows? I've been really feeling the colour yellow lately, so be expecting to see a lot of the colour yellow if you follow me on any social media. Okay, so my thing that I'm going to talk about today is I went to see the I Love Dogs yesterday. I Love Dogs, which is genius because it sounds like I love dogs, and guess what? I love dogs. Truthfully, I am more of a cat person, like I'm not gonna lie about that, but I also love dogs. Like cats and dogs, there shouldn't be this fight about which one is better. They both have good qualities. Both have four legs, they both have fur, they both have ears, they both have tails, Mostly they have these things, some of them don't, but who cares. So yeah, yesterday I went to see I Love Dogs with my sister. Cannot get over that name, it's just so fucking genius. I am a massive fan of Wes Anderson. The Grand Budapest Hotel is easily one of the best films I've ever seen, and not just because like it was really funny and well written, but like everything about it aesthetically was just gorgeous. I mean, the color palette, just the way everything kind of lined up, the way everything was framed, the cinematography. Like, I'm not gonna lie guys, my opinion on Wes Anderson films is that if you're artistic, it's kind of like an orgasm for your eyes. My mother watches my YouTube channel. She's gonna be really upset to know that I know the word orgasm. She's gonna be even more upset to know that I know what that word means. And this film was just absolutely breathtaking. They did a lot with it that I was really pleased about. I should probably just straight up say there's probably going to be spoilers, so if you're planning to see it and you don't want spoilers, please don't watch this video, blah blah blah. There was a lot of things I liked about it, but there was three things that I mostly took away from it. Hey, did you guys hear the rumour? Dogs. Biscuito. Let's just start with the aesthetic. So it was done in this really kind of cool aesthetic style that I know they used for Fantastic Mr. Fox. Very puppet-like, very doll-like, but there was also like some kind of cartoonish things going on, which I really, really liked. Everything was done like so symmetrically, like I could not get over just the symmetry. And you know, the dogs, they live on an island made of garbage, and it was just so beautiful. Like, it's weird because it's not really beautiful, but the way everything was framed, that beautiful symmetry, there was lots of squares, it was very aesthetically pleasing, a lot of overhead, like above shots, and a lot of the overhead shots, like there was a lot of circles, a lot of perfect circles. I'm a big fan of circles, big fan of the circle. It's my favourite shape. Everything about it aesthetically, beautiful. All the dogs were super cute, and they had lovely big puppy dog eyes, and they had like the tears when they were crying. It wasn't good that I had to see a dog cry. Several dogs cry. It wasn't cool. I think one of the other cool things about this film was the fact that all the dogs like spoke in English, but all the people spoke in Japanese, and I kind of liked that. I liked the fact that unless there was a translator, you didn't know what the characters in Japanese were saying, because truthfully, that's probably what it's like for a dog. I remember I read once that a dog can learn up to 200 words of human vocabulary, but overall, apart from that, when you're talking to a dog, it's kind of probably just gibberish that they're hearing. I'm speaking English right now, my dog's sitting over there in the corner, fast asleep, and he's probably just thinking, what is she talking about? This is gibberish. Like that you kind of got to see the whole story from the dog's point of view, which was, you know, they have their own culture, they have their own way of thinking about things, they have their own way of speaking, they have their own kind of phrases that they use, and humans, they have no idea. This film was also, despite the fact that it was called The Isle of Dogs, was really, really political, which I really, really liked. All these dogs were exiled, they were like shoved on this island by the mayor, who did not like dogs. Like, he fucking hates dogs. And he spread a lot of like false propaganda and sabotaged a lot of things that were true, backed up by science, because he didn't want to believe it. And I think it's very reminiscent of the political times we live in. Anyone who is, you know, sensible and who's well read or just a human will know that, you know, things like the Brexit campaign and things like Donald Trump's political platform, all of it were based on lies. There was no truth in there whatsoever. It pandered to fear that people had, a lot of prejudicial fear that people have. I think this film was really reminiscent of that. This mayor played on people's fear that, like, dogs were dirty, that dogs were biters, that dogs were diseased, and while that is like true for a small minority of dogs who are like maybe strays and carry diseases and maybe bite you because they don't understand that you're maybe trying to help them, or you know, have suffered abuse and hence why they lash out, it was kind of very reminiscent of the fact that the Brexit campaign and Donald Trump's political campaign were all just based on lies. It was really, really accurate to the time we're living in, and it's really interesting to me that a movie about dogs could make such an interesting political statement about propaganda machines, because propaganda machines are essentially what politics is now boiled down to. Politics no longer really actually is based in fact anymore. It's very much based on popularity competitions. It's very much based on whose propaganda can scream the loudest rather than on who's actually got the facts and who's actually doing what's best for everyone. People will listen to people who pander to their ridiculous prejudiced fears, like they will, because they don't know any better, because they're not educated enough to read up on it. And that was kind of the thing you got from the masses in this movie. They weren't educated about anything that this mayor was talking about. They just took what he said as facts because he said it the loudest. That was the thing. Anybody who was a member of the Brexit campaign, anyone that was a member of Donald Trump's campaign, including him himself, none of them actually spoke anything that made any sense. None of them spoke anything that made any fact. But the point is, they could do it the loudest, and that's why they got elected. It didn't matter that what they said was poisonous. People heard them because they were loudest and decided that was how they were going to vote. It's ridiculous, you shouldn't be that way. But if you're into like kind of political statement movies and also into dogs, this is a great movie to watch. One of my other favourite things about this movie was the 5 main dogs. They were all like names for like kind of like leaders. So you know, you had like Rex, you had King, you had Chief, you had Boss, and you had Duke. And I really liked that, and they all worked like as a democracy, which again I found really kind of interesting because this movie was so political. These 5 dogs who all have like, you know, the kind of names for leaders were all very much in a democratic situation where when they were all talking together they wouldn't make a decision unless the majority of them had voted on it. It was really funny because the dog Chief was always outvoted. He was the naysayer. It was so funny that he was kind of always outvoted because he so badly, like, he was the underdog in this movie. He was the outcast in this movie, and he so badly wanted to stay in that mold. He did not want to conform into any kind of mold that someone else maybe thought was better for him. And I like that he kind of came to terms with the fact that he could still be who he is, while at the same time like growing and maybe fitting into a different mold that's a bit more mainstream without actually having to compromise who he is. I think the character development of Chief was amazing. The cast in this movie, absolutely brilliant. You had like Bryan Cranston, you had like Jeff Goldblum, Scarlett Johansson, Yoko Ono, Tilda Swinton. There was so many like amazing people in this movie, just absolutely brilliant. I really liked Duke, Jeff Goldblum's dog. His dog was the character whose line I just loved, where he just kind of constantly went, "So did you guys hear about the rumor?" Like, that spoke to me on such a level. I have this awesome friend JJ who I used to work with, and I miss working with him, but this dog reminded me so much of me and JJ, because literally every day at work was like one of us busting in the door and being like, "Oh my god, did you hear what happened?" I'm just gonna give you a shout out, JJ, even though I'm aware you probably aren't watching this because you don't love me anymore because I abandoned you and went and got a new job. I miss my friend JJ a lot. This movie was just beautiful, spectacular, like 100%. Please just go watch it. It was so funny. Probably one of the most unique pieces of cinema I've seen in a long time. Everything about it was just absolutely gorgeous. The political statement it made was beautiful. The fact that there was dogs in it in itself was amazing. The voice acting in it was absolutely hysterical. Like, there was a lot of very like deadpan kind of humour coming from the dogs, which is interesting because you don't really think of dogs as being kind of deadpan creatures. 100% everyone go see it. Go see it. Go see it right now. Another thing I want to talk about is motivation. Seeing things like Wes Anderson films, and also my other favourite director I've talked about before, Guillermo del Toro, seeing their kind of films and seeing the kind of things that they achieve artistically kind of always makes me feel like I'm such an underachiever. But I have a lot of friends who are autistic, and I think that's kind of a mutual feeling a lot of us have, is this idea that you're not trying hard enough, especially when you see someone else be successful. You think you're not trying hard enough, you feel like you're not doing enough. And it's really hard when you want to be creative, but you've also kind of got to work a full-time job and live a life. Like, that's so hard. Right now I am not in a writer's block, and I'm not lost motivation. It's just finding the time to write. I'm like working on the 11th chapter of a novel I've been working on, and it's just really hard to find the motivation to keep going. I want to keep up with the YouTube channel and just chatting in general about nonsense. I haven't made a hat in like 2 weeks because I've just been so busy. Real life and responsibilities and having to earn money and having to work and having to look after your family and help out around the house, all those things just kind of get in the way of your creative process, which is so frustrating because I know I'm such a creative person and I know I've got a lot to offer the world in terms of the kind of writing I want to do. Not like so pretentious that I think I'm some unique, special, amazing, never before seen writer, but I do think that I have like just a slightly kind of maybe unique point of view. I think that I've got an interesting story that I really want to share with the world, and it's just trying to get the time to get it on paper and not feel like a massive failure if I have a week where I just don't have the time to do any writing. It's so hard. If any of you have kind of any tips on how to discipline yourself and motivate yourself, please share them with me because I'm so bad at it. My granddad, who I love to bits, it's really hard for me and my sister and my mum actually. Like, my mum's dad, my granddad, he lives down in England, and it's really hard for my mum because I know she like misses him a lot. Like, I know she does, and it's really hard for me and my sister as well because we love our granddad, but because he's always kind of lived over the other side of the border, it's really difficult for us to like build a relationship with him. And we do have a relationship, it's just not as close as it would be if we could, you know, just live 10 minutes down the road like my other nan and grandpa do, because I can just pop in and see them, and you know, I can go out for dinner with them and I can go and see movies with them and they can come to the house. But my other granddad can't really do that. But I really like the fact that me and my granddad have actually like been getting a lot closer recently because he's also been writing. I send him my chapters and he reads them. I truthfully have a feeling he has no idea what's going on in my novel and he's just kind of being positive because he wants to be positive, but I also don't think he would lie to me about if he was enjoying it. Like, I'm super paranoid he's not actually enjoying the story, but I don't think he would lie about it. I do think, however, he has no clue what's going on in the story. He's been sending me bits of his own writing because he's been trying to learn some creative writing and it's really good. And I know he's just wanting to work on like some kind of memoir, and I'm super excited to read about it because, again, because I never got to really have that kind of relationship with my granddad that I did with my grandparents up here, like, it's so, you know, it's such a privilege for me to get to read such personal things about his life and get a look into who this man is, you know, who I love very much, but at the end of the day he's kind of a bit of a mystery to me, like, just like I'm kind of a mystery to him. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, like, I'm not saying that in a critical, horrible way, because it's just the way it is. It's just what happens when you live estranged from family, you know? It's just what happens. But I love my granddad very much, and I honestly just appreciate what a massive, like, fan of my work he's become. Though I'm convinced he has no idea what I'm actually talking about. Well, I really appreciate, like, my granddad and all his support. I love sending him my chapters. I love reading his stuff. It's so cool to get to see that insight into his life. If any of you out there would like to read 10 rambling chapters of a sci-fi fantasy novel that I only have about maybe 80% of it planned and the other 20% I'm just kind of making it up as I go, just let me know, you know, let me know if that is something that you would like to read. Let me know if you are into that and you would like to give me feedback. I know I'm asking for a lot, 10 chapters is a lot. Even if you only wanted to read like 1 or 2, that would really help me out. I usually find that when I give my stuff to people and they give me back feedback, regardless of whether it's positive or whether it's like constructive criticism, it kind of gets my juices flowing because I want to write better for them as well as myself. Anyway, that's me rambling about the Isle of Dogs. Like, subscribe, because it's the only way I'm going to get YouTube famous so that I don't have to work anymore in case this best-selling novel I'm planning to write doesn't work out. Don't be selfish. Help me. Biscuito.